So Brent Richards baseball cards is having a VR. I kind of like to do these. Sometimes I don't fit in with the VR. It doesn't. I don't fit into what the concept is, so I don't do them all. But I like to do them when I kind of fit right in, when there's something there that I can really talk about. So what he's talking about in his video is that he's celebrating 2 years on YouTube, and he's having a VR and trying to get people to get back with him on what person is the most influential in your hobby. Who's giving you the most ideas? Who's being your muse in the hobby world? So I thought there's a whole lot of people right here on YouTube that would fit that bill. I've been influenced a lot and led. I want to say that. The people have led me to certain things that I really appreciate. But that's not so much about my collection as it is about the hobby. And I think that's what he was saying was your collection. So I started thinking back, like, okay, it's going to be somebody way back when. Couldn't think of anybody right away. And I think, okay, one guy. But I got to work my way to him. And so I kind of wanted to go real quick to my collecting history, how my collection actually got started. I still have a lot of the cards I had back in 1969 when I started collecting. And so I started collecting in 69, and right down the street from me were a couple of friends, Zane and Michael. And their mom was home with them all the time, and it was a great warm house to be at. Playing outside in the street. We played baseball in the street with crushed pop cans for bases. We collected baseball cards. We just hung out together at their house. And I remember sitting inside their garage, and their mom would just have the radio. Actually, it was the stereo blasting out some great Motown music. And it was just like a party in the summertime all the time. Baseball, music, baseball cards. And that's where it started. So it's really hard to say who had the first amount of influence on me as a collector. I remember sitting on a garage floor, kind of dirty floor with my friends, going through these cards. We bought these packs, and you can see this is one of my original cards. All right there, you can see some creases in that. Yeah, this is an original. And I thought these were the most amazing things in the world. 1969. These, look at that crease in there. It's an original crease. These were fun. They were cartoons. They were comic-y. And we loved them. Of course, my friends and I graduated to the very next perfect collectible the next year, which is the 1970 set. That is a complete set. In a very old collector's box. Now, here's the thing that you won't know unless you're a collector of these old cards. They came printed in series. So we really just kind of went through the first series for an entire summer because that's all we could find. So years and years later, I started completing this out. But my first year in 1970, this is what we had. And this was a very much prized card, the World Champions. You can probably see some creases in there, maybe. Little creases. Yeah, there's some there. Love these cards. These were what we collected. We love these cards. And I remember getting this card here. John Hiller. He played for the Tigers, the greatest team in the universe. 10 years old, I was just in love with this team. And these cards. I think this is why it's my favorite set. I have a lot of emotion, a lot of drama tied in to this set. Didn't know who Vita Blue was back then. I just thought it was a cool name. Look at this one. Ooh, he's creased up good. Sorry, Maddie, but you're not going to be replaced. Those creases are original. Oh, there's another world-famous Detroit Tiger. Look at that, Richie Allen. A lot of these cards surprise me that they're in as good a shape as they are. I just remember putting them in my back pocket, but I guess some of these I took better care of. Who would have known back in 1970 I would meet this guy when he was the team president for the Michigan Battle Cats? Anyway, oh, here's some leader cards. You know, I'm going to go on record right now as saying, I don't like leader cards. I don't care who's on it. I don't like them. They just get in the way. I'd rather have a regular card of each one of those players than a bunch of them grouped together. So years later, probably about 3 or 4, 5 or 6, me and my friend Terry would trade cards and collect cards and go buy packs and sit on a old church that was by our house on the steps and open packs, or sit right there when we opened them right outside of the store. Threw the papers down on the ground. Lady came out and says, "Hey, if you're going to buy those, you throw those where they're supposed to be." It was my first lesson about the littering. Anyway, 1972 is the year I really remember dealing with Terry, and he really wanted one of my cards. And I was 12 years old. He called me up, I believe it was a Saturday, and he goes, "I need to do a trade with you." It was a trade that went on, and I think it was that day. It could have been the day before. It was the day when Steve Carlton got traded to the Cardinals. Got traded to the Phillies for Rick Wise. He wanted Rick Wise in the worst way. He wanted him. I was afraid I was giving up something really important the way he was really going after it. He goes, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you a Steve Carlton for your Rick Wise." It's just like they did in the major leagues. I still very suspect. I thought he was taking advantage of me. But I did it because he's my friend. And then, of course, I don't know what that goes for now. I know that's about a $3 or $4 card. But, yeah, I picked up the Carlton card because he wanted the Rick Wise card. That was another very important step in my collecting years. When you're collecting with somebody who's your peers and a little smarter when it comes to baseball and not looking at the cartoon cards as before. This was a real fun time for me. And another thing is Terry was a big Milwaukee Bucks fan, and I couldn't understand that at all because we had the Pistons right down in Detroit, but he loved the Bucks, and he was buying basketball cards, trying to pick up Bucks cards at that time. Shortly after playing cards with little boys, I grew into a man, got a job, didn't go to college right away, and worked with my good friend Ray. And Ray was already kind of collecting cards, and he actually had the Pee Wee Reese card from the 1954 color Bowman with the jumping over the guy sliding in a second. I thought that looked alien. It didn't look like any of the other cards, and I thought, is that really a part of the set? He assured me it was. I always wanted it since then, but don't have that in my collection. But Ray, myself, and another friend, his name is Bob, who kind of really comes into this story much later on, but we'll touch on that later, went in on a 1966 unopened box of cards, Topps cards. We bought it through the Sports Collectors Digest. This was in 1979, I think. Could have been 80, but I'm sure it was 79. And we all went in together, made the purchase, and then what we did is we opened them all, and then all the ones that we had 3 of, everybody got one. Then we just went into a draft. We did kind of a draft and pulled cards out, and that was the first step in completing my 1966 set. Now, I didn't get all of these cards, obviously, from that one box. I can't even remember what series it was, but we got some pretty good cards out of that box. And that was a very good start for my set. And really, right there, right, the very first card. Love these cards. This was the very first big set that I put together. When I say big, a lot of cards. And a lot of expensive cards. Well, expensive for me. These commons were at some point 80 cents, $1, which doesn't sound like much, but when the average Common card back in those days was maybe 12 cents, 9 cents. These were expensive. Oh, look at that. That's going to freak some people out right now that I've got that card sitting in a box in a penny sleeve, not graded. Don't worry, you'll get over it. Anyway, that's what Ray and I did. We collected cards together when we worked, went to card shows, did a lot of card buying on the side. In fact, we got with another friend of mine, whose name was Dave, and got wind that a guy from Grand Rapids was going to sell us some cards, some old cards. We've heard that before. Old cards, like 3-4 years old. We got up there and they were old. And he wanted a lot of money for them, but they were kind of, I don't want to say dog-eared, but they were not in mint shape and he wanted mint prices. So we were trying to talk him down, and it was, I was doing all the talking, and we were trying to just get him down to a point where we pay him for what they're worth, because I really wanted them and I don't mind paying for what, they're worth. I just don't want to pay up. Well, we were kind of trying to let him know that, hey, we're not going to be able to buy these at that price. And my friend Dave pipes up and goes, well, I'll buy them. So he's trying to buy the cards right out from under us. Has that ever happened to you? I looked at him and my friend Ray looked at him. We're standing right out in front of a bookstore up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Argos Bookstore, which is still there. And it's really a great store if you ever get up to Grand Rapids. There's a bridge down the way that was over a river, and my first inclination was to toss him over the bridge into the water. I took him aside and said, look, we're trying to negotiate something here. Why don't you just calm down and we'll figure this out? And we did eventually. We got some really nice cards. I remember that because of that situation. But I still have the cards that we purchased from then. Right there. That is my very only Jackie Robinson card. Look at the centering. Look at the corners. It wasn't in great shape. This one was a part of that deal too. Again, the centering not so good. Rounded corners. Here's another one of them that was part of that deal. I don't remember what we paid, but we paid more than I really was comfortable with. That's part of the business of baseball cards. And that's why Ray was a big influence at that time. He kind of knew this stuff, and I was learning from him. And then Ray and I met this other guy who was older than us. He lived down around the corner from where we worked, and he had baseball cards we've never seen before. He had T206s, T207s. He had cards from the 1800s. He had every single card you could get from the 60s and 70s. And that's where I started learning about the vintage side, more so than these. This gentleman's name was Bill. And here's some of the stuff he's introduced me to back in the day. I have a lot of the 52, 50s, and 51 baseball, Bowman. I got partial sets to most of these cards. You couldn't get these cards unless you were getting them from a friend like we were, or through the Sports Collector's Digest. That Al Rosin, that's nice. Hank Bauer. It's Eddie Lopat. Joe Collins. Got some football too. Some basketball. Walter Dukes played for the Pistons. George Lee. Some more Tigers here. Ted Gray. Ted Glazewski. I don't have any of the Giants. When I say Giants, I don't mean Giants like this guy, although he is a Giant. I mean, I don't have any Mantles or Mays or anybody like that for that set. But I do have a lot of older cards, which pretty much I got most of these from my friend Bill when Ray and I would go to his house and buy cards. He had a ton of knowledge that we were able to just tap into. It's Joe Garagiola. Did not get these from him because there was no such thing as grading back in those days. But these are ones that I've added to this collection. I mean, we never saw anything like this. This was an amazing card when I was a young man, and I wanted to buy as many as I could. Of course, I didn't get them with the tags, but that's okay. Our friend Bill actually had full boxes of tobacco with these on the back. Is that not the coolest? And I got my eyes opened up to things like these. I have a bunch of these, but I thought these were the coolest cards. Of course, they're not from the era. It's George Sisler, Gabby Arnett, Eddie Collins. But I was introduced to those. And those. And of course, my favorite at the time were these. I love the 55s. I still do. I've got most of a set. But I've slowed down on the good vintage stuff because it's just so expensive. So, yeah. But I still have an interest, and I still pay attention. Thank you, Bill, for showing us all this fun stuff. And I really appreciate the fact that I bought most of my 1954 Bowmans from his collection. I've got almost a full set. Missing 3 cards. Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, and Ted Williams. Who knows? Someday. Not going to hold my breath. Then a few years passed after that. I was kind of on my own. I didn't have a whole lot of people to actually collect with, so I kind of did everything on my own. So we finally get down to the last person who I feel has a lot of influence on my collection, and that would be Bob. Now, remember I mentioned Bob back just a few minutes ago when I was talking about how Ray, Bob, and myself purchased that unopened box of 66s. Well, Bob and I were friends going all the way back to that year, which I think was 79. 1979, could have been 80, but I think it was 79. And we've been friends ever since. And he moved off, and we kind of had to, just be friends far apart, but we stayed friends. And Bob moved back up to the area, and we maintained our relationship, and then got to hanging around. And one day, well, let me pause that first. Let me show you what some of the things Bob led me to. First of all, I always refer to him as the card enabler, because that story will come next. But he will go to a show and sniff out things that he knows that I'm looking for. And he'll point to them and go, hey, here's that thing you're looking for. Hey, did you see this? I want to show you this. That sort of stuff. And if anybody has a card enabler, you know how helpful they are. You've got extra set of eyes looking at stuff that you're interested in. And the stuff that I'm showing you now is some of the things I bought with him when we were together. These are the Detroit Tiger bubblegum-less baseball cards that were actually printed in the newspaper. And they come with a back and front. And your idea was, they actually weren't in the newspaper. They were in like a pamphlet that came in the newspaper. And you'd glue them together. So you'd have Bill Freehand's card, and there's his back. These are the coolest things. I've wanted these for years, and I've never seen them for sale at shows until Bob and I went to this Jackson, Michigan show, and I picked these up. These were a blast. I was so happy to see him. I sat there and bored Bob, the card enabler, to death by telling him all the facts and figures about this. I'm surprised he wanted to go to another show with me. We were at the Kalamazoo, Michigan show, and I saw this card and a guy that he introduced me to, whose name is Joe. Joe, I buy something from Joe at every card show I go to, whether he's in Kalamazoo or whether he's in Elkhart or the other place in Elkhart. I buy from him because he's got good stuff. And Bob introduced me to him because Bob ran into him at his store. Joe has a store. So I bought this at the Kalamazoo Wings show about a year or two ago, maybe. I love this card. Snow Play Ball, Irwin Fox. Then we were together at the Elkhart show. One of the, I don't know how to differentiate the two. One of them is at the Moose Lodge all the time, and the other one is at the next to the RV museum there along the toll road. Bought these from there. These are a part of my hobby hunt. These are the 1957 guys from the Brooklyn Dodgers that I like. I'm still missing a couple of them. But look at these. These are in pretty good shape. I love these cards. Bob, of course, is the one that said, hey, they got a show there. You want to go? Well, of course I want to go. So we did. We went to a show in Novi, the Novi Sports Spectacular, which is the biggest show in Michigan this year. Purchased these because we went to that show together. Sal Rosen, little flip. They're actually called the Hit Parade of Champions, but we always call them Burke Ross. That's the company that made them. And this is Bob Lemon and Robin Roberts. We were together, went to this great dealer, sat there and talked to that guy for, 20, 25 minutes, just sharing stories back and forth with him, with Bob. What a good time that was. And then the one show we went to where he really knew what I was looking for. He goes, did you see those hostess cards? Big box of them up there. And he shows them to me. It's probably about a 300 card box packed full of hostess singles. This is just some of them. I've got the other ones in another box. I didn't have enough room for everything in the box. I don't put these together in a set. I usually collect them in panels, but I love hostess cards. And Bob knew it, and he pointed it out. He brought me over to it, and I bought the box. I think it was $100 for this massive box, and it was full of stars. Mike Schmidt's, Reggie Jackson's, Steve Carlton. It's just full of them. And I love getting hostess cards in my collection. So, getting back to Bob the Card Enabler, and while he got that name, when Bob and I started getting back together after he moved back up here, he said, hey, you still collecting cards? I said, yeah. And he goes, we ought to go to a card show. I kind of chuckled at him. I went, Bob, there are no card shows anymore. That's a long since gone thing. He looked at me and kind of raised his eyebrow, and he goes, no, I'm pretty sure there's card shows out there. And he comes up with this list of card shows in the area. He starts talking about them. I'm like, how do you know this? Because he's not living in my neck of the woods. We started going to shows, and that's when this stuff started entering into my collection. We've gone to some great shows together. We went to the National a couple of years ago. We've gone to the Chicago Sports Card Spectacular. We've gone to the Novi Sports Spectacular. We've been to several shows down in Elkhart, Indiana. We've been to shows in Shipshewana, lots of shows in Shipshewana, one in Fort Wayne. We've been to Lansing, Michigan. We've been to Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's been a blast. Plus, we've gone to a lot of shops. So, to answer the VR the way I think Brent Richards wants it answered is, this guy, Bob the Card Enabler, is the guy that has really influenced me the most in my card collection. I enjoy taking time to go to shows with him. It's just a great way to be with a good friend that you've had since, 18, 19 years old. It's something you can just be comfortable with a person that you know that long. You got the dual interests. You can just sit down, have a conversation about cards. And it's just very fulfilling to have that kind of relationship with a friend and to have that kind of relationship with your cards. So I really appreciate Bob the most at this point. He has been very influential in helping me put my card collection together. And I want to say thank you, Bob. I appreciate it immensely. And I'm looking forward to the next show. You might see him from time to time in the videos. He kind of has a way of just sneaking in and lurking around and just always trying to make his way into the video. He'll do flips and somersaults and stand on his head, just like that, to get into my videos. So when you see him, go, there's that guy. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Brent Richards. And talk soon.